This song's for all you haters. Listen, listen, listen.
Hey you guys, if you are new here, my name is Shali. Welcome to my channel. If you've been to my channel before, thank you for coming back. Welcome again. I wanted to get on and do a video about a few questions that you may need to ask yourself if you decide to hire an attorney to handle an accident claim here in the state of Georgia. So back in 2018, I was involved in a car accident where I was rear-ended by two other drivers on 285. It's been a long battle trying to get this whole claim resolved. We have just settled, I want to say for me, because there were 6 of us in the car accident, or 6 people in my car at the time of the accident, which was me. I was driving. I was 7 months pregnant. My mom, she was in the passenger seat. My niece and her 3 children were in the back seat, and we were in a big Tahoe at the time. Now, if any of you are familiar with 285 and where you have to decide if you're going north, south, east, I was coming from west. So I was coming from the Douglasville area headed towards Gwinnett County. Now, if you're like me, you know that traffic is always heavy when it gets to Spaghetti Junction because people seem to want to get over at the last minute when they're trying to figure out which direction they're actually going in. For me, I try to get in the lane that I know that I need to be in well ahead of the time. So I was already traveling in the lane that I needed to be in for the north exit coming up. We were rear-ended by 2 other drivers. Now, the point of this, this recap is that I sell insurance here in the state of Georgia, and we have, I don't know how it works in other states, but in Georgia, you can purchase what's called MedPay on your policy. And how MedPay works is you can get a coverage of a minimum of $1,000 or up to $50,000. And how MedPay works is it is an amount that you are paying an extra premium on to cover you and any passenger in your vehicle at the time of an accident, regardless if you're at fault for the accident or not. MedPay is also good to have if you don't have health coverage because you can use your MedPay on your auto policy if you are a pedestrian and you are hit. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can even use it if you're a passenger in someone else's vehicle. I have to double check on that. I haven't ever done a claim like that before, but I do believe you can use it if you're involved in an accident as a passenger in someone else's car. Anyway, fast forward, we hired an attorney that took on our case. And when it got down to it, we found that we were going to probably have to go ahead and litigate the case. And the attorney that, pretty much selected us, I would call him an ambulance chaser because they reached out to us. We did not reach out to them. But I digress. They did not litigate. So they were referring me to someone else that did litigation. But a client of mine had referred me to their attorney, and we decided to give them a try, and they ended up holding our files for like 5 months without any action. So we decided to part ways. I ended up going back to the attorney that was referred in the beginning. What I've been disappointed about with this whole thing, because this is almost coming up on 4 years, is that the attorney that we ended up hiring to, finalize everything, get everything settled, not only seemingly not been fighting for us, but did not understand how MedPay worked here in the state of Georgia. So that has been like the last piece that has dragged on longer than necessary. So what I would suggest is that if you have MedPay on your policy and you happen to get involved in an accident and you hire an attorney, make sure that attorney understands that you do have MedPay and how that MedPay works. Because in our case, they're waiting to the final hour and there was money left on the table that shouldn't have been left on the table that could have gone, in this case, to my mom and to my niece. Now, mine was absorbed in the beginning, which is fine. That's why I was paying that extra cost. But my niece and my mother, they weren't able to take advantage of a coverage that I had on my policy because the attorney was negligent on trying to make sure that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted when he took on the case. case. Regardless if the first attorney did not do his due diligence with my insurance company to make sure that all the medical bills have been sent to them in a timely fashion, that they were made aware of all of the passengers in my car at the time of the accident, that doesn't seem to have happened. And I would hate for that to happen to someone else. So be sure that if you do hire an attorney here in the state of Georgia, that you understand your own policy. Because keep in mind, MedPay is a coverage that you can purchase on your own insurance policy that will cover you and any passenger in your vehicle at the time of an accident, regardless of whose fault it was. You could have been the at-fault driver of the accident, but even if you weren't, your medical expense would come from there first before anything else. You know, in my case, I had $2,000 per person. Now, that $2,000 that I had per person was supposed to cover 6 people, which was me, my mom, my niece, and her 3 children. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, $12,000 that I had within my policy that should have been dispersed to our medical expense off the top. And then, you know, we handle everything else from our settlement in regards to the medical treatment that we received. I've kind of been pegged the lawyer with no paperwork in the family, so to speak. It seemed like I did more footwork in the last 2 incidents where, you know, I hired an attorney. As far as doing the digging and doing the research and stuff like that. If I was involved in another car accident and I wasn't at fault for that accident, I don't even know that I would hire an attorney, because sometimes it may be easier, even though a lengthy process, it may be easier and cost effective for you to handle your own negotiating with the insurance company than it is to pay somebody 40 to 43 or 44%, whatever lawyers charge, mine 40%, to do not much of anything. I mean, mind you, this accident happened in 2018 and we are in October of 2021. My mom and my nieces, their cases were settled with the other party's insurance company, and they have yet still to receive their check. So it's crazy. I don't know. I've not ever, you know, had to sue, you know, someone's insurance or anything like that, or go through this situation to kind of know what to expect. But it doesn't seem like it would take that long. They settled in April and we are in October, and they have still, well, I think my niece just picked her check up last week, but they owe her money because they did not go after the MedPay that I had available. And I feel like if they missed that window of opportunity before the case had gotten to a point where it was statute of limitation on it, then the attorney should eat the cost that they would have had to pay out on my niece and her 3 children. Her children's medical expenses did not reach that $2,000 threshold, but still, that's hundreds of dollars that could have gone in her pocket because I had that coverage there. And so I don't want to see anyone have MedPay and not know how it works. Now, this attorney has been in business for years, and if he doesn't understand how the MedPay works here, I wonder how many people have walked away and paid their own medical bills when they had MedPay on their policy. That just baffles me, because in all the years that I've been selling insurance, many people don't really know how their insurance policy really works. All they know is that it's required for them to have it in the state of Georgia, and you know, that's it. They are heavily relying on their agents to be able to give them the coverage that best fits their needs. And if you're not asking questions, you won't have any idea how your policy is supposed to work, because insurance, to me, I've always said, is one of those things where if you have it and you don't need it, meaning you never make a claim, it feels like a waste of money. But if you need it and you don't have what you need, it feels like, you know, you were not deceived per se, but it just feels like, you know, why didn't I know this? And so I try to educate my policyholders when they call inquiring about insurance, and that's all I can do is educate them on what, you know, how their policy works. And I think MedPay is really underrated. A lot of people don't end up getting it because, again, it's an extra expense. But you'd hate to be in a situation where you don't have medical insurance, or say you have medical insurance, but you have other people in your car that you care about, and you're the cause of the accident, and they don't have any medical insurance. It's kind of like a safety net, you know, for the event that you have an accident. And so in my case, I was paying that extra cost for the coverage, and $2,000 isn't a lot, but it was enough to cover some of the medical expenses that were out there, and it wasn't even utilized the way that it was supposed to. My mom was saying, my daughter, you know, works in the industry. She's telling me that this is how her policy works, and he's like, no, MedPay would only cover her as the owner of the policy, as her being the driver. And I'm like, no. That's not true. It just made me want to, put a video out there for those of you who live in the state of Georgia who have MedPay or don't know what MedPay is, thinking that attorney is working on their behalf. I just found it strange that he didn't understand how that worked. And even after me explaining to him several times how it worked, he still didn't inquire at the time he was hired to find out how MedPay worked and, what he needed to do to make sure that my coverage was tapped into, because that was an expense that I was paying extra on my policy for a case like this, for a situation exactly like this. So if you live in the state of Georgia and you have car insurance and you don't have medical insurance, or you want to make sure that you have enough coverage, because keep in mind, if you have an at-fault accident and you're injured in that at-fault accident, your insurance is not going to pay any of your medical expense. So your liability insurance is not going to cover you for any injury. It'll cover the person that you are responsible for injuring. So in a case like that, if you don't have MedPay on your policy, but you're injured and you caused that accident, you won't have any coverage either. So it's good to know how your policy works and find out if you need that coverage or not. And then you make the decision, but at least you're educated and hey, do I want to pay an extra 20 to 40, 50 bucks, depending on how much you get? Because I think, like I said, for us, you can do as little as 1,000, or you can do as high as 50,000 per person. Of course, the higher it's going to cost on your premium, but that may not matter to you to have that peace of mind. So inquire with your insurance agent. Find out what you have and how it will work for you, because insurance is definitely one of those situations where, again, like I said, if you don't get involved in a car accident, you don't know you need it. And people don't really know that they need a coverage until they need it. I have people that'll call all the time and have an accident and they're saying, oh, somebody hit me and they left the scene. And I'm like, okay, well, you have uninsured motorist coverage, so there's coverage there for you. But if they have someone break into their car perhaps, or they break the glass doing that and they only have liability coverage, guess what? It's not going to cover for something like that, because you'd have to have comp and collision on your policy. But people don't really know that that's how it works. And here in Georgia, a lot of my clients, they're foreign. Some of them don't really, they don't really understand how the coverage is supposed to work for them. And so it's good to ask questions. And, if you're an insurance agent, then make sure you're telling your customers, how their policy is going to work for them if they happen to have an accident, whether they are at fault for the accident or they are a victim of an accident. So anyway, that's all I have on this topic. If you've got any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Be blessed.